All right, let's have an honest moment here. I want you to close your eyes for a second and think about your home. What area of your home do you still feel like is really overwhelming? If you're new here, my name is Becky Truda, and I have been decluttering my home for 6 years, finding out that I have ADHD, and then learning how to work with my brain. But through all of that, I've had the pleasure to be able to research why we are so overwhelmed in our homes. So while you were thinking about your clutter, it had me thinking about my own. And one of the big things that used to really bother me was my closet. Anyone else been there? I had drawers full of jeans, and I've always been somebody who really liked wearing jeans, but I had so many that I never wore because I didn't have the right outfit. Have we ever been there where we buy and buy thinking that this is going to make our capsule wardrobe complete, and coming home to find that we don't even take the tags off, and often we still don't have the right shirt to go with the jeans? The first research-based idea I want to talk to you about is called hedonic adaptation. I may not be saying that right, but it's basically that idea of the treadmill. When we go into a store and we think to ourselves, finally, this is the one thing I've been looking for, the perfect white shirt, and now everything in my wardrobe is just going to fall into place. And then we get home and very quickly that starts to wear off, and we realize that no, it wasn't the white shirt. It was one more thing that we need in order for our wardrobe to be complete. The idea of hedonic adaptation basically means that it's our brain's way of going back to baseline. Have you ever heard about people that won the lottery and then lost it all within a year or two? And I know I would just sit there and be like, how could you possibly lose millions of dollars? Time and time again, it was that they bought and bought and bought and actually spent all of that money because that one more thing wasn't actually bringing them the happiness that they wanted. And so what that idea has taught me over the past 6 years of learning about minimalism and decluttering my life is that so often we go and we get the next greatest thing, thinking that when we come home, this is going to be life-changing, but it isn't. And then we wonder why. And in that wondering, instead of thinking maybe it's because our things can't bring us happiness, we start thinking it's because the line has gotten a little higher for my happiness, and so I have to go get the next thing. Having an ADHD brain, I can very easily relate to the chase of dopamine. And for me, often it was in shopping. I would look to shopping as a way of coping with stress or even rewarding myself for having a good day. I was always looking for that next dopamine hit. And when we do that, and we have a house full of things that we don't really want, but we thought we did in that moment. If you're caught like I was for so many years on that treadmill of buying and then realizing that it's not bringing you the happiness that you thought, something that really helped me was taking a step back from shopping. Some of the things that I tried myself was making a list, but sometimes I would forget that list. So what do you do next? The next thing that I would do is I wouldn't go in any store I didn't know I already needed something. And then even further, if I had to go in places like Walmart or Target that had a multitude of different kinds of items, I wouldn't bring a cart. Because in not bringing a cart, it made me physically hold each of these items that I was going to buy. And in holding these items, it triggered my brain to remember everything we buy has a weight to it. And that weight is being brought back into my home. So if you have never tried not going with a cart, I definitely recommend it. I know it's not easy if you have little kids or if you're grocery shopping, but it's definitely something that I would try out if you're stuck on that treadmill and you don't think that you can step back. For me, I even had to start with just not shopping for a day. That is how addicted to that treadmill that I was. And in starting with just a day of no spending, it felt like something that I could accomplish. It felt like a goal I could reach. Until then, I could do a week and a month and so on. But getting off of that treadmill is not an easy task. Believe me, I have done it myself and even catch myself now sometimes going back to my old ways. So you constantly have to be reminding yourself of what your goal is. Your goal is to find contentment with what you already have. It's not that we don't have needs in the future, but if we can find contentment with where we are, then we can slow down that treadmill and actually enjoy the present. Research shows that we're actually really bad at predicting what is going to make us happy or what we really need. And so we're going to call that this miswanting. This idea all had me going back to when I bought a treadmill twice. And why did I buy those treadmills twice and then have to declutter them twice? It was because I had good goals. I wanted to walk more or run more. And I thought over and over again that if I had a treadmill, that would change. But that was miswanting. That was buying something because I thought it is what I needed. And yet, what do I really enjoy? I like doing little YouTube workouts in my living room or going on a walk. Those are my favorite way to get exercise. Do I like to walk inside on a treadmill? Absolutely not. I can't stand it. It's too loud and it bothers me. And so why did I keep getting that treadmill? Well, it goes back to the research of miswanting, that our brains are not good at predicting what we're going to need in the future or what we're going to want in the future. So as we're walking around with our things that we want to buy from a store, I want you to start asking yourself some questions that are going to help you better understand if this is something that you need or is this something where you might have a misguided want. And so what I like to ask myself is, if I put this item back on the shelf, how would it make me feel when I walked away? Would I forget about it by the time I got to the cash register? Would I need it in a few years still? The idea that I recently learned about from my YouTube friend Madeline, was the 5-5-5 rule. And it works really well with miswanting, because the 5-5-5 rule says when you're decluttering an item or thinking about buying an item, you ask yourself, would I need this in 5 minutes? Would I need it in 5 days? Would I need it in 5 years? I mean, the question could go on and on. But the big idea is that we often keep things or want things because we're misguided. When I ask myself that real question of, will I need this in 5 minutes? And I'm checking out at that cash register, I realize that I often forget that I even wanted that thing in the first place. And 9 times out of 10, I never go back for that item before I leave the store. Going back to the whole idea of miswanting, when is the last time that you can remember that you bought something and then took it home and didn't take the tags off, or didn't immediately need it in that 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 years? When's the last time you bought that item? And why was that? Because the more that we question ourselves, it's like watching my mom do Sudoku, which is this like math puzzle game, and we're working our brains. And the more we work our brains, the easier these patterns show up to us. And where I still can't do Sudoku, even the beginner version, but my mom is amazing at it. And why is that? It's because she's trained her brain to look for the patterns, and she has the understanding of where she wants to end up. And when we have the reality check and we ask ourselves these questions, am I bored or stressed, or do I feel like I deserve it? Do I really want this thing in my current life? The more often that we understand what is miswanting and what are the things that we really will enjoy and bring into our life, and they will add that richness, that fullness that we really want. Real quick, if you are enjoying learning about minimalism, then please come and join us here and subscribe. And also, if you are already decluttering here with us, then I would love for you to throw a heart emoji down below, because I don't know about you, but it brings me a lot of joy to see that we are not alone. Have you ever been online looking through Instagram or Facebook and suddenly feel like you need to go get something, that maybe something is missing from your life and you go buy it online? That's the whole reason why TikTok made the TikTok store. It's because when we watch social media, it's like a drug to our brain. And we see all these things that we would have never seen before, are known to even want, because we see them through the people that we follow. And we think, we gotta have this because this must be such a great thing to have. What I had to realize about myself is that very often I would want to get these things because other people had them. And the whole idea that our social circle is now millions of people, as opposed to just maybe a few hundred that live in our community, means that we have so much more access to this miswanting, this misguided idea of what we really need. And so what I've had to do for myself is that it's not that advertisements are bad innately, and it's not that buying things is bad, because we all need and enjoy doing it. But the idea is that, why do I want this item? Do I want this item because another person has this item and said it's awesome? Or do I want this item because I really feel like it adds value to my daily life? There's tons of research out there that talks about how materialism is making us unhappy. And the millions of tons of clothing that we send every single year to other countries because They were basically one-use items, and how materialism is destroying our environment, but it's also making us so dissatisfied with our life. And what I had to realize as I was decluttering over the past 6 years, getting rid of things, was so often I was faced with the fact that I had bought things because other people had them or they were popular at the time. And then coming home and using them, I realized they didn't work the way I wanted them to, or I had something so similar already that I didn't need this object in my life. And so as I'm decluttering and getting rid of all these things, I started to think, what would really bring me joy in my life? What, as a teacher, we used to say, would fill my bucket up? And I had to realize that where there are things in my life that I have bought even recently that really add to my day-to-day life experience, the takeaway is that the items that fill my bucket up the most are those ones that bring my family together. We recently just got a grill that we had been, or a griddle that we had been looking for and looking at for a long time. It had been on our list. But why did I really want it? It's because it travels, it can come camping with us, and we can use it all the time to learn new recipes and enjoy each other's company outside on it. And that's why it was a reasonable buy. That's why I didn't mind spending my hard-earned money on it, because it was something that I knew on my list of things was going to add to the overall enjoyment and happiness in my day-to-day life. And when we can get down to really understanding the difference between buying something that is going to be maybe an immediate dopamine hit, but not last, and something that we can use over and over again, and that is going to even maybe bring your community together or make your life easier on a day-to-day basis, those things are the ones that are worth using, worth buying, and worth keeping, and worth sharing with other people. And all of the rest is just really that white noise that we need to start zoning out of, because that sweatsuit on Amazon, that person's advertising, is not going to change your life radically. But having a family camping trip and being able to enjoy it with other friends and family, those things could actually really improve your standard of living and your standard of happiness. So thinking about, is the object that I'm going into the store to buy or I found on the shelf, didn't know I wanted, is it my brain just misguiding me down the wrong path? Am I just stuck on this treadmill and I can't get off because I'm looking for that dopamine hit? Or is it something that I saw somebody else had and so I need it? If we can answer those three questions and say, no, it's not any of those, then you know that this object is most likely going to bring in the peace, contentment, and happiness that we want to add to our lives. And it's not us just chasing after the next best thing. Okay, so I think all of us would love to know in the comments down below, I can't wait to read them, what is something that you have actually bought that has added that value to your life? And maybe even a great story about how you've walked away from something that was misleading you down a path that would keep you on that treadmill forever. All right, friends, if you've enjoyed learning about minimalism, then go ahead and watch one of these videos right here, and I wish you guys all the very best.